Okay, let's do this one more time. 2 weeks ago, I made a video on the complicated lore behind alternate universes inspired by Undertale. I think I did a good job covering the big ones, but an AU that was noticeably lacking was Glitchtale. And that's because, I didn't like it very much. Though that really shouldn't be much of a surprise from how many times I've said this series was shit. The original plan was to talk about a few AUs I liked and then a few I didn't, kind of like the analog horror video. But Glitchtale proved to be so poorly written and frustrating that it needed its own video, so I could fully explain the full-on nervous breakdown I had remembering its existence. So I guess I should start by explaining what Glitchtale even is. Glitchtale was created by actual Camilla Cuevas, and is an Undertale parody similar to Sir Pello's Underpants, but just very dedicated to tricking people into thinking it's taking itself seriously. Starting in an almost completed genocide run. Wait, why is the screen black? What happened to the reanimated version of the first episode? No, seriously guys, where did it go? Frisk and Sans continue fighting until Kara takes over Frisk's body and almost kills Sans. But inexplicably, get ready to hear me say that a lot, Frisk is able to block Kara's knife slash despite them sharing a body. Don't think about it too hard. And give Sans their soul. Don't think about that too hard either. Giving him the power to kill Kara and reset the timeline again. Cut to a much worse looking episode 2. Frisk miraculously runs into Gaster, who seals away their save and resets button, somehow. He almost kills Frisk, but thankfully is saved by Sans. But what's this? Kara is alive. I'm not really sure how that's possible either. Apparently, due to Frisk glitching the timeline, Kara and Gaster are able to exist. Sans brings Gaster back to the timeline, and he's no longer evil. Yay! The underground's strongest entities pull up and try to beat Kara, but they absorb the 6 human souls, forcing Frisk to have to give Flowey their soul to give them a fighting chance against Kara. Kara and Azrael fight. Kara gives up or something, and Azrael frees everyone from the underground. Season 2 starts with all of the characters being accepted by human society, but not actually, because of racism. Asgore gets thrown in prison, Alphys dies, I guess, Sans also dies, Papyrus gets put in jail. You are such in a rush, you are such in a rush! A bunch of other bad stuff happens, but that doesn't really matter for the sake of the summary. Frisk fights Betty with one of those totally not traced bits of animation. Frisk then replaces themselves with Kara, fucking with the timeline in all sorts of ways, but also allowing Azrael to be saved. Oh right, he also died. Jessica dies, Sans is alive, then dies. Gaster tweaks, kills Betty really easily, and the real, true enemy drops. And Kara and Azrael have to fight in order to save everyone. You know, maybe I'm being too harsh. It's been nearly a year since I last watched Glitchtale, and I could be misremembering it. Maybe if I give it another shot, I'll have a really good time. I bet you thought I was going to cut to me watching it. Here's a plot twist I bet you weren't expecting. That description of the plot I gave was written the day after I finished watching Glitchtale again. So I can say with full confidence that no, I wasn't being too harsh. Glitchtale is still the biggest piece of shit on the planet. I actually took notes for each episode and color-coded everything based on world building for yellow, power system stuff for blue, and plot holes for red. You'll notice that a majority of my notes are red. Wow, that's so weird. One of the funniest parts of this video has just been figuring out where to start, if I'm being honest, because genuinely trying to write down my issues with the series starts to burn literal holes in my brain. So I guess I'll just start at the very foundation of this series' idea, Undertale, and how Camilla Cuevas doesn't understand it. But before that, oh wow, look at the sub to not subbed ratio. It would be so crazy and flattering if you subscribed, joined the Discord, followed my socials, and gave me all of your money on Throne. Patreon only has 1 tier and it's only $1, so check that out if you want. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the video. A pretty agreed upon part of Undertale is that each and every one of its main characters do something that are bad, but are forgiven or at least accepted despite that. Nearly every character tries to kill you at some point, but the game doesn't treat them as these wholly evil people. Instead, we get a look into their lives and why they act the way they do. And I think that's why the pacifist route is so powerful, showing a route where everyone grows from the experience and is given a better life. The only person who doesn't was Asriel, who finds redemption by freeing everyone else from the underground. Sure, just killing people in front of you is usually the easiest option, but you're rewarded for taking your time and helping these people. Fuck that though. Camilla seems to understand that redemption and forgiveness are core themes in Undertale, as seen when all of the characters instantly forgive her human OCs for getting Sans killed. But it's not consistent at all. The events of Undertale still happened in this universe, which makes certain bits of dialogue hilarious as it contradicts things that still would have happened in this timeline. Frisk is just an irredeemable monster in this show. The glitch timeline is their fault. They are actually the reason Kara was the way they were in season 1, and they're completely detached from the rest of the world. Instead of the chance for nuance, Camilla chooses the easiest option by making Frisk the true evil of this world, who can't do anything right. This then bleeds into Asriel's characterization too, as Frisk says that the only person he'd listen to would be Kara. Did we play the same game? The whole point of Asriel's final talk with Frisk is him acknowledging that Kara wasn't the best person, and that Frisk was the friend he always wanted. In Camilla's brain, this meant that Kara did nothing wrong and Asriel cares more about Kara. How? Toriel is just treated like shit throughout all of the series and never really gets any form of compensation. When she isn't getting literally beaten down by a character, there's someone telling her how much of a coward she was for leaving Asgore alone at the throne. Sure, two of those examples came when characters were under altered states, but then you have Gaster here saying that she doesn't even care about monster kind, and I feel like I'm Lisa Simpson at the projector. In the actual game, Toriel's actions were caused by her grief, locking herself in the ruins because her kids just died, and then she watched Asgore kill 6 more of them. The show tries to act like this was an objectively terrible thing Toriel did, while painting Asgore's actions as justified. It's a bad thing when he gets arrested for killing all of those kids, and outside of that, nobody ever really brings it up in a negative light, despite someone murdering 6 kids being, bad? What's even funnier is that the only character who had an issue with this just conveniently never speaks to Asgore again. Like, you're not even trying to address Asgore's flaws. The original nuanced take on these characters and their century-long grief is destroyed for the sake of painting Toriel as this awful and irrational wife who left her husband when he needed her most. To be fair, I'm not surprised that Camilla would see their relationship like this.
Let's be real, you don't deserve an apology for being groomed.
Nigga, what?
The thing is, I don't even think it was intentional. Forgiveness of antagonists happen, but only when Camilla wants it to. A perfect example is Gaster's whole arc in season 2. Jessica ends up getting Sans killed. After that, Gaster spends the entire rest of the season being very aggressive with her whenever he's given the chance. An actual good piece of writing is Gaster learning to forgive Jessica. Of course, even when I like something, there's a massive asterisk. Gaster takes all the blame in the scene, completely removing Jessica's agency as a person who wanted to redeem herself for what happened with the monsters. But then she sacrifices herself for Gaster right after? What is happening? This scene makes it look like Gaster is the only one who needs to seek forgiveness, when he was justifiably very upset that this person got his son killed. Sure, whatever, there was at least the attempt to go back to the core themes of Undertale. But I swear I'm not kidding. The episode after, Gaster goes into a full massive rage and kills the main villain. The whole point is that nobody is all evil. They just do bad things. Gaster's first appearance is him trying to kill the human, coming back without apologizing, mind you, and then learning to forgive Jessica for getting his son killed. But no, I would like to write a cool fight scene where Gaster is a badass. So fuck themes. Imagine in Avatar: The Last Airbender, spoilers by the way, if Aang, the pacifist, chose to kill Ozai at the end because he annoyed him. Okay, Ty, that isn't fair. Avatar is one of the best shows on the planet, and you know what? I hear you. I hear you. So let's just go back to the source material for a second. Imagine the ending of a pacifist route just being Frisk murderizing Azrael instead of trying to understand him. Sure, Betty for the most part hadn't really shown any redeemable qualities. So then my question is now, why write an antagonist who can't be redeemed in a show all about redemption? I'd kind of understand if Gaster killing Betty was the wrong move and there was a peaceful option, but she's just replaced with a big grey villain who has no personality and can only be dealt with by using violence. Another big point in Undertale is that there was always the choice for pacifism. Even when it's destroyed, you can still spare Asgore. Glitchtale though, but no guys, it's actually a really deep and compelling OC Camilla made who wanted to die because of the corrupting effects of hate. What even is hate in the first place? In season 1, Camilla didn't even have to worry about world building, since everything was still taking place in the underground. But the second, and I'm not even kidding, the second the characters leave the underground, everything just falls apart. We're told that monsters have been accepted by society and that their advancements in technology are being rewarded. But this group, literally called the Anti-Monsters Department, are also an important part of society. Where do I even begin? Okay, first, monsters hadn't been seen in over 100 years. My question is, what were they doing in that time? And why do they have so much control over the city's progression? We never do get an answer for either of these, but a far more important issue I want to ask is why Camilla thought writing these guys in would be a good idea. This animosity between humans and monsters ends at the sentence it was first brought up in, because outside of one time, the monsters are treated completely fairly, and there isn't any human who shows them any form of prejudice or discrimination. But the narrator keeps telling you how relationships between humans and monsters are just, oh, so bad. I guess Camilla was too busy to actually write in any of the examples of racism. The show tries to tell me that this is a major issue, but never shows me. The only two people who are shown to have bias for monsters is Jessica and Betty. Jessica's monster bias makes sense for her. Her child was killed by a monster. And even before that, she was already in the AMD. The way she gets over that is confusing. So Jessica gets attacked by Betty and is now not racist. No, that's not even me being hyperbolic. That's literally what happened. I'm glad Camilla graced us with her idea of racism. I'm racist until I get attacked by another race of people. Jesus Christ. Also, how come Jessica is never punished for killing all of those people with rubble? Why is it never brought up actually? It's so funny to me how in season 2, Jessica's announcements that humans should trust monsters should be this dramatic scene. But that's just how things always were. The whole setting also leaves me asking questions. Like, a big thing is that Frisk can't reset, and if they die, the whole world ends. This is because they've glitched the timeline, meaning that they can only continue. We find out during this whole character assassination moment that they glitched the timeline themselves. But like, how? And how does them giving their soul to Kara fix the glitching? It isn't just them that's glitched, it's the whole timeline. I thought that was the whole fucking point, but no, just a quick soul swap and everything's fine. Can I also say that determination makes no sense? If my dedication to talking about internet media ever comes into question, I will bring up this section specifically, because I had to do a lot of optional reading to even make sense of the issues I have with Glitchtale's power system. Any questions regarding me touching grass will be ignored for this presentation. So, Camilla subscribes to the idea that the different colored souls have different traits, giving the users different powers. You wouldn't really know that since every fight with a human just becomes a laser battle, but that's a whole other issue I have. Glitchtale did something better than Undertale for once.
Nigga, what?
It made me even more confused on how determination works in Undertale. Okay, so is determination like an infinite power source? It seems like someone can drain Frisk of their determination, and from them just existing, they're able to replenish it. So does that mean that Frisk could give monsters their determination of no drawbacks? Kara's timeline is being erased, but they were able to use determination to go to another timeline and give Azrael their locket. How does that work? In season 1, Kara is able to give Azrael their soul as a vessel for the other 6 human souls. Somehow, this counts as 7 souls, allowing Azrael to break the barrier. But then, how does this work? Either Kara's soul is its own individual soul and therefore wouldn't be a vessel, or Azrael has 6 souls and just magic bullshit goad his way out of the underground. Also, he has access to all of the traits, including determination. But Kara only died because they ran out of determination, so how does Azrael have it? How was Kara the human able to absorb other human souls? How was Kara able to make an erase button, and why aren't they allowed to press it? Why do I have so many questions? Surely there has to be something that can explain all of this nonsense. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce you to the Glitchtale wiki. This is real shit, bro. Any and all questions I have should be answered right here. I'm so sure. Wow, the soul trait section is so in depth. I'm so glad we saw all of these really cool things soul traits can do. So apparently determination is a perfect balance between all of the traits. So does that mean that they can use every trait ability? No. Why? We've had characters with 2 traits before, so I don't get it. Kindness souls have a resistance to hate, so how did Azrael get affected by it? Why was Frisk able to just block Kara's attack despite the 2 sharing a body? Is that how determination works? But I thought that Kara took Frisk's soul. Gasta has access to all soul traits, but don't monsters die when injected with it? On the topic of monsters, why does them eating human food give them physical matter? Along with that point, why does Gasta say his healing pod only works on Sans because he's all magic? Despite Gasta also saying that everyone was gaining physical forms. Speaking of Gasta, he pulled out this crazy new level of power by Sans dying. Apparently, he's only at half power when his 2 kids are alive. Do you know how I know that? Why does every human possess a certain level of each trait? That doesn't even make sense, because then surely upon losing their dominant trait or oh, I seem to be having a nosebleed. How have I been left with more questions than answers by looking at the wiki? Optional reading my ass. This is required if you want to make any sense of anything that happens in this show, especially if you want to even have a chance of understanding Betty, the main antagonist of Glitchtale. Reading Betty's entry on the wiki actually brought a tear to my eye. Not because the origin story suddenly made the writing any better, but because I knew I'd have to fill out another 3 pages just on this nonsense of a 5-minute video. Okay, so inverted magic. Please make a note of this. Some ugly-ass kid was born with 2 traits, which further adds to my theory that someone with determination should be able to use all trait abilities. Our orange-haired character loses a fight against the Frisk stand-in and loses their trait. One of the effects of losing your trait is the inability to use magic. The orange-haired character returns using magic. Now riddle me this, comment section. If an established rule of this universe is losing a trait equals no more magic, then how did she do this? It's funny too, because the Frisk stand-in loses their trait and is rendered straight up immobile. The orange-haired girl uses magic somehow to save her life or something by taking the small girl's body. Huh. Okay, time to look through my best friend, the Glitchtale wiki. Nothing explains how she did this. Apparently also, the fear trait is dark orange and not pink. So please ignore every time someone says the pink soul is fear, including the only character to possess one. Right. This whole section kind of came about because there were just so many issues I had with the show that I couldn't find sections for them. If you're already tired of me saying only the word why, then this part is gonna drive you nuts. To mix it up, I'm gonna say how instead of why. How was Frisk able to block Kara's attack? Don't they share a body? How was Gaster able to seal off the save and reset buttons? Why was Gaster attempting to kill Frisk never addressed? Why would Frisk die if Azrael used their soul to break the barrier? Why does someone else need to press the erase button? How is Betty able to use magic? Why is Betty neither monster or human? Why does Jessica's mother's bias stop by her simply being attacked by Betty? How do monsters gain a physical form by eating human food? And if that's the case, how does magic-based healing work on them? How does Betty just teleport in season 2 episode 5? How is Betty able to survive unwinnable scenarios by pulling new powers out of her ass? Why can Betty control other people's powers? Why does Betty have 2 forms? What is Akumu? Why does Betty's fear power let her imagine whatever she wants? Why does Betty have like 10 powers? Why is Betty the worst written part of this series? Despite the section being named after her, I'm still not too sure how I should list all of these, because there are just so many of these and I'd never want to waste any of your time's ad. Welcome back! Let's start in a similar way I did with the first section of this video. Why Betty doesn't work as a villain for the themes of Undertale. As I said before, characters in Undertale can all be spared, meaning they have to have some sort of redeeming quality about them that makes sparing them worth it. Betty has no redeeming qualities. She hates both humans and monsters. Don't worry, I'll get to that. She also takes immense pleasure on the suffering of others. She's a mass murderer and the option of redemption was never on the table for her. Seriously, going through the whole show again and there is nothing that would even suggest that she can be redeemed. Have you learned nothing? Going on to my best friend and yours, the Glitchtale wiki, there is actually information that is straight up omitted from everything. Now, Betty is this tragic character who was never asked to be born, but feels obligated to fulfill their mother's final wishes. Betty also learns about what happened in the underground, which literally can't be true. There was a whole ass barrier stopping her from doing that. But to one up the stupidity, she is also aware of Frisk's genocide route that didn't even happen in this timeline. Man, this character reeks. You must know the meme I'm thinking of when an OC befriends all of the canon characters and knows everything about them, right? This is that in reverse. Betty's justification is stuff she straight up couldn't have been present for. And if that wasn't already Mary Sue enough for you, we then go over to any conflict with Betty. Betty is so hilariously overpowered compared to the other characters. Her original stuff made sense. She shows people their biggest fears. Ignore the fact that every time she's used this power, it's just been random illusions like Papyrus just seeing a human he doesn't know on the crane in episode 1. Okay, so just illusion creation. Cool how the power just changed, but that makes sense. Oh, but she also has this other entity that becomes weapons and eats souls to power itself up. Okay, but that's a bit weird. Oh right, she can then use that entity to eat human and monster souls to release this huge attack that lets her take over other people's attack. Why and how? I don't know. This was a complete arsepool, by the way. Betty should have died fighting against Gaster the first time. Hell, even before that, Alphys made a machine that would erase any monster it's used on. But luckily, Betty isn't a human or a monster, meaning it doesn't affect her. Undyne almost killed her, but then she pulls out a third arsepool with the hate vial? Ty, how was this an arsepool? Hate is an established... How did Jessica and her team get the vial if the last person affected by hate existed before they had that technology? 3 complete arspools deep, and they just keep coming.
That's rough, buddy.
Undyne is about to beat her, reinforcement comes, and she just runs away? Have you ever played Undertale? Betty's about to lose to Frisk? Well, dear viewer, Betty is actually able to control and use the hate in order to revive dead monsters. Man, I'm sure glad she pulled that out of her ass right before she was about to die. Also, in this fight, she just teleports away. You see, it turns out that Betty wasn't trying this whole time, and she had to fuse with Akumu to reveal her true form. And it makes her so much cooler. Oh man, I bet she could beat Goku at this point. She was also able to use fire magic when fighting the only two people who use fire magic. That's so convenient. And when she finally dies, oh god, it turns out she was holding back the real evil this whole time. Guys, can you believe how strong and cool Camilla's OC is, guys? She's the opposite of the main character's power and is the only one who has it. Smacked around the entire cast, has like 15 powers, 7 health bars, an awesome origin story where we find out she's just an inverted form of some kid, and was only stopped by another character stooping down to her level and doing an ass pull. This series is gonna lobotomize me. I know a question someone is gonna ask is, why waste so much time watching something you don't like? I don't know, I thought it'd be funny. Time is no longer a factor for me. So wasting a day watching something bad and making a silly little video about it is all I could hope to do on YouTube. I've already appeared on a video talking about this, but I had more problems than my section could have ever allowed. And I couldn't sit there and be normal about the one and only game I'm not normal about, you know? Camilla has failed in every way to get Undertale. Despite making a lot of money from this, the quality of the series hasn't increased all that much. It honestly seems like she was sick of writing for Undertale characters and wanted to do her own thing, which is what she's doing for season 3, and why I haven't talked about it yet. I want to give a big thank you to my channel members, LHTQ Woo, No Name, Poet, much appreciated, Martha Mayers, Obscuroni, Ant, Israfel's Fire, and Chuli. And with that out of the way, I hope everyone has a great day. See ya, lads.